The shuttle touched down on the landing platform with a soft hum. Daniel Carter looked out the window at the world that had requested his help. That was beautiful in a strange way. The sky was pale orange and the buildings rose like silver needles toward the clouds. Everything looked expensive. Everything looked proud. Daniel was 52 years old. His hair had turned gray at the temples, and his hands were rough from decades of working with soil. He wore simple brown clothes and carried a bag of old equipment that he had used on a dozen worlds. He did not look like much. He knew that. He had never cared. Commander Tessa Morgan walked beside him as they stepped off the shuttle. She was younger, sharper, dressed in the crisp uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. Her job was to handle the politics. His job was to save their dying farms. A group of officials waited for them at the edge of the platform. They were tall beings with silver skin and 4 arms each. Their clothes were made of fabric that shifted colors in the light. They looked at Tessa with polite smiles. They looked at Daniel like he was a piece of luggage. One of the officials stepped forward. He was old with deep lines on his face and kind eyes. His name was Lord, and he was the chief advisor to the Queen. "Welcome to our world," Lord said. His voice was warm. "We are grateful that Earth has answered our request for help." Tessa shook his hand in the human way. "Earth values its friendship with the Empire. We hope our specialists can help solve your agricultural problems." Lord turned to Daniel. "You are the terraforming expert." "Yes, sir," Daniel said. "I work with soil and plants. I hear yours are having trouble." Something flickered in Lord's eyes. It might have been surprise, it might have been respect. Daniel could not tell. "The Queen wishes to meet you both," Lord said. "Please follow me." They walked through the Silver City toward the royal palace. Daniel noticed how the citizens stopped to stare at them. Some whispered to each other. A few pointed at his worn clothes and old bag. He heard one of them say the word primitive in a tone that was not meant to be kind. Daniel said nothing. He just kept walking. The palace was the largest building Daniel had ever seen. It rose so high that clouds wrapped around its middle floors. Inside, everything was made of crystal and metal that glowed with soft light. Servants moved silently through the halls, and guards in ceremonial armor stood at every door. They entered the throne room. It was a vast space with a ceiling so high it disappeared into shadow. At the far end, on a throne made of what looked like frozen starlight, sat Queen. She was young, 26 years old in human terms, though Daniel knew the age differently. She was beautiful by the standards of her people, with skin like polished silver and eyes that glowed soft blue. She wore a crown of tiny floating crystals that orbited her head like planets around a sun. She was also bored. Daniel could see it in her posture, in the way she barely looked up as they approached. Lord announced them. "Your Majesty, the human delegation has arrived. Commander Tessa Morgan of Earth's Diplomatic Corps and Daniel Carter, their agricultural specialist." Queen's eyes moved to Tessa first. She studied the commander's uniform and nodded with something like approval. "Commander Morgan," the Queen said. Her voice was musical but cold. "Earth honors us with your presence. I trust your journey was comfortable." "Very comfortable, Your Majesty," Tessa replied. "We are eager to begin our work." The Queen's gaze shifted to Daniel. It lasted less than 2 seconds. Her expression did not change, but Daniel saw the slight curl of her lip, the tiny narrowing of her eyes. He had seen that look before on 100 worlds. It was the look of someone who had already decided he was not worth her time. "Your farmer may begin his assessment tomorrow," the Queen said, speaking to Tessa as if Daniel was not there. "Lord will provide whatever resources he requires. I expect regular reports on his progress." She waved one of her 4 hands in a gesture of dismissal. The audience was over. As they left the throne room, Tessa leaned close to Daniel. "She barely looked at you." "I noticed," Daniel said. "Does that bother you?" Daniel smiled. It was a small smile, tired but genuine. "I did not come here for her attention, Commander. I came here to help her people grow food." Lord caught up with them in the hallway. He looked embarrassed. "I apologize for the Queen's manner. She is young and under great pressure. The noble houses blame her for the famine, even though it began before her reign." "No apology needed," Daniel said. "I am used to it. People see my clothes and my old equipment and they think I do not know what I am doing. That is fine. My work speaks for me." Lord studied him for a long moment. "You are not what I expected, Mr. Carter." "Most people say that." "What did you expect?" Tessa asked. Lord hesitated. "Someone louder, someone who would demand respect." Daniel shook his head. "Respect is not something you demand, Lord. It is something you earn, or something you give because you choose to." He adjusted the strap of his old bag on his shoulder. "Now, can you take me to your dying fields? I would like to see what we are dealing with." The next morning, Daniel stood in the middle of a vast purple field that had turned gray and lifeless. The soil crumbled in his fingers like ash. Around him, farmers watched with hollow eyes. They had tried everything. Nothing had worked. Daniel knelt down and pressed his palm flat against the dead earth. He closed his eyes and was still for a long time. One of the nobles who had come to observe laughed quietly. "He talks to dirt," the noble whispered to his companion. "This is the great human expert, a man who whispers to soil like a child." The companion laughed too. "Humans are so primitive. I do not know why the Queen bothered asking for their help." Daniel heard them. He did not react. He simply stood up, brushed the dead soil from his hands, and began to walk through the field, examining every detail with patient eyes. He had work to do. Their opinions did not matter. Only the dying land mattered. Only the hungry people mattered. He would help them if he could, not because they respected him, but because helping was what he did. 3 weeks passed. Daniel worked every day from before sunrise until long after dark. He slept only 4 hours each night on a small cot in the research station that had given him. He ate simple meals and spoke very little. Lane, the young botanist who had come with him from Earth, worried about him. She was 28 years old with bright eyes and a quick smile. She believed in the mission. She believed in Daniel. But she did not understand why he pushed himself so hard for people who treated him like a servant. "You should rest more," said one evening as Daniel examined soil samples under an old microscope. "You are not young anymore." Daniel smiled without looking up. "Thank you for reminding me." "I am serious. They do not care if you work yourself to death. They do not even say thank you when you show them your findings." "I do not work for their thanks," Daniel said. He adjusted the microscope and leaned closer. "I work because there are children on 5 worlds who are going hungry. Their parents cry at night because they cannot feed them. That is who I work for." Was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, "Have you found anything?" Daniel sat back. His eyes were red from lack of sleep, but there was a spark of something in them. "Yes, I found it." The problem was a parasite, a tiny organism that lived in the soil and ate the nutrients that plants needed to grow. It was so small that instruments had missed it completely. But Daniel had seen something like it before on a human colony world 30 years ago. He knew what it was. He knew how to kill it. The solution was a special bacteria that humans had created during Earth's Great Recovery. It would eat the parasite and then die, leaving the soil healthy again. Daniel had brought samples with him, but growing enough bacteria to treat 5 worlds would take time. 6 months at minimum. He presented his findings to Lord the next day. The old advisor listened carefully and asked intelligent questions. When Daniel finished, Lord bowed his head. "You have done in 3 weeks what our scientists could not do in 3 years, Lord said. "I am grateful." "The work is not done yet," Daniel replied. "We have only found the problem. Fixing it will take much longer. The Queen will want a report." Daniel nodded. "I expected that." The meeting with Queen was scheduled for that afternoon. Daniel put on his cleanest clothes, which were still simple and plain compared to fashion, wanted to come with him, but he told her to stay and continue monitoring the bacteria cultures. This was something he needed to do alone. He arrived at the palace exactly on time. A servant told him to wait. He waited. 1 hour passed, then 2 hours. Other nobles walked past him, glancing at him with curiosity or contempt. Some did not bother to hide their laughter. Daniel stood quietly with his hands clasped behind his back. He did not complain. He did not ask how much longer. He simply waited. Finally, a servant came to fetch him. The Queen would see him now. He entered a smaller audience chamber where Queen sat on a cushioned chair, surrounded by advisors and courtiers. She was looking at a holographic display and did not acknowledge his arrival for several minutes. "You may speak," she said eventually, still not looking at him. Daniel explained his findings. He spoke clearly and simply, using words that anyone could understand. He showed her images of the parasite and explained how the bacteria treatment would work. He told her it would take 6 months. The Queen finally looked at him. Her expression was not pleased. 6 months? My people are starving now. You want me to wait 6 months? The bacteria need time to grow, Your Majesty. There is no way to speed up the process safely. If we rush, we could make the soil worse. That sounds like an excuse. She turned to one of her advisors. Did we not hear that humans could work miracles? This does not sound like a miracle. This sounds like failure. The advisor nodded eagerly. Perhaps we should seek help elsewhere, Your Majesty. The Empire has excellent scientists. Queen looked back at Daniel. Her eyes were cold. Tell me, human, are you the best Earth has to offer, or did they send me someone disposable because they do not value our friendship? The room was silent. Everyone watched Daniel, waiting for his reaction. Some of the courtiers smiled, enjoying the show. Daniel took a slow breath. Your Majesty, I understand your frustration. Your people are suffering and you want to help them. That is admirable, but I cannot change how biology works. The treatment takes 6 months because that is how long the bacteria need to reproduce in sufficient numbers. I am not making excuses. I am telling you the truth. The truth, the Queen repeated. She made the word sound like an insult. The truth is that I asked Earth for their best and they sent me a farmer with old equipment and slow solutions. She waved her hand dismissively. You may go, continue your work, but know that I am watching. If you fail, there will be consequences. Daniel bowed politely. I understand, Your Majesty. He left the palace and walked back to the research station alone. The sun was setting, painting the orange sky in shades of red and purple. It was beautiful, but Daniel did not stop to admire it. Lord found him an hour later, working in the laboratory as if nothing had happened. I am sorry, Lord said. She should not have spoken to you that way. She is young and afraid, Daniel replied. Fear makes people cruel. That does not excuse it. Daniel looked at the old advisor. No, it does not, but it explains it. He turned back to his work. I have been dismissed and insulted by people far more powerful than your queen, Lord. I survived. I kept working. I saved the worlds I was sent to save. He paused. But I will tell you something I have learned in 52 years of life. What is that? There is a limit to what any person will accept. Even a patient man has a line that should not be crossed. Daniel's voice was quiet, but there was something in it that made Lord feel cold. I hope your queen does not find that line. Lord left the laboratory with a troubled heart. He had served 3 rulers in his long life. He had seen arrogance destroy empires. He prayed that he would not see it happen again. But deep in his heart, he was afraid that his prayers would not be answered. The grand celebration was held on the anniversary of Queen's coronation. The palace was filled with lights and music. Nobles from all 12 worlds had come to honor their queen. Ambassadors from 6 other alien empires were also present, dressed in their finest clothes and watching everything with careful eyes. Daniel received an invitation 3 days before the event. He knew it was just a formality. The Queen did not want him there, but refusing would be seen as an insult to the crown, and that would make his work even harder. So he accepted. He wore his best clothes, a simple dark suit that he had brought from Earth. It was clean and well-fitted, but it looked plain compared to the flowing robes and glowing fabrics worn by the offered to stay behind with him, but he told her to go and enjoy the party. She deserved a night off. The ballroom was enormous. Crystal chandeliers floated in the air without any visible support. Servants moved through the crowd carrying trays of food and drink that Daniel did not recognize. Everywhere he looked, there was wealth and beauty and pride. He found a quiet corner and stood there with a glass of water in his hand. He did not try to talk to anyone. He simply watched and waited for the night to end. Commander Tessa Morgan found him after an hour. She looked uncomfortable in her formal dress uniform. "You should not hide in the corner," she said. "It makes you look weak." "I am not hiding," Daniel replied. "I am staying out of the way. There is a difference. The nobles are laughing at you." "Let them laugh. I did not come here to impress them." Tessa sighed. "You are impossible." The music stopped. A servant announced that the Queen would now address her guests. Everyone turned toward the raised platform at the end of the ballroom, where Queen stood in a gown that looked like it was made of liquid silver. Her crown of floating crystals glowed brighter than ever. She gave a speech about the glory of the empire. She thanked her loyal nobles and welcomed the foreign ambassadors. She spoke of challenges and triumphs. The crowd applauded at all the right moments. Then her tone changed. "As many of you know," Queen said, "our empire faces a great challenge. A blight has struck our agricultural worlds. Our people are hungry." She paused for effect. "We asked the humans of Earth for help. They sent us their expert." She looked directly at Daniel. Everyone in the room turned to follow her gaze. "Come forward, human," the Queen commanded. "Let my guests see the savior Earth has sent us." Daniel set down his glass of water and walked through the crowd. People stepped aside to make room for him. Some whispered behind their hands. He kept his face calm and his back straight. He stopped at the foot of the platform and bowed politely. "Your Majesty." Queen smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Tell my guests how your work is progressing." "The treatment is on schedule, Your Majesty. The bacteria cultures are growing well. We should be ready to begin large-scale application in 5 months. 5 months, the Queen repeated loudly so everyone could hear. 5 months while my people starve. She turned to address the crowd. The humans promised us a miracle. Instead, they sent us this man with his old equipment and his slow solutions. 5 months of waiting. 5 months of watching children go hungry. The crowd murmured. Some of the foreign ambassadors exchanged glances. I have decided, the Queen continued, to seek additional help from the Empire. Their scientists have assured me they can solve our problem faster than this human farmer. An ambassador in the crowd smiled and nodded. Queen looked back at Daniel. I thank you for your efforts, human, but I believe we no longer require your services. We will pay you for the time you have already spent. You may return to Earth. The room was silent. Everyone waited to see how Daniel would react. Would he argue? Would he beg? Would he become angry? Daniel did none of those things. He simply looked at the Queen. His face showed nothing. No anger, no hurt, no surprise, just calm, quiet acceptance. I understand, Your Majesty, he said. His voice was steady. He bowed once more. Then he turned and walked toward the exit. The crowd parted for him in silence. His footsteps echoed on the crystal floor. He did not look back. He did not say another word. Commander Tessa Morgan hurried after him. Daniel, wait. You cannot just leave. Yes, I can, Daniel said. He kept walking. She is making a mistake. The cannot fix this. You know that. Their methods are not compatible with soil. I know. Then go back and tell her, make her understand. Daniel stopped. He turned to face Tessa. His eyes were calm but very, very tired. Commander, I have spent my whole life helping people who did not want to listen. I have worked on worlds where they called me names and laughed at my methods. I stayed because the people needed help and I could give it. He paused. But I will not stay where I am publicly humiliated and dismissed like a servant who has displeased his master. That is my line. She crossed it. What about the people, the children who are starving? Pain flickered across Daniel's face. It was there for just a moment, then it was gone. That is not my choice. It is hers. She sent me away. She chose pride over her people. He started walking again. Prepare the shuttle. We are going home. Lord caught up with them at the landing platform. He was out of breath from running. Mr. Carter, please, I beg you to reconsider. Daniel shook his head. I am sorry, Lord, you have been kind to me, but I cannot stay. The Queen spoke in anger. She did not mean. She meant every word, Daniel said quietly. And even if she did not, words have weight. They cannot be taken back just because they are regretted later. He extended his hand. Thank you for your hospitality. I hope that can help your people. Lord took his hand. His grip was weak. His eyes were full of fear. They cannot, you know they cannot. Yes, Daniel said, I know. The shuttle lifted off into the orange sky. Daniel sat by the window and watched the silver city grow smaller and smaller until it disappeared beneath the clouds. Sat beside him, she had been crying. This is not fair, she whispered. We were so close. Daniel put his hand on her shoulder. Fairness is a human concept. The universe does not care about fair. It only cares about consequences. He leaned back and closed his eyes. The Queen will learn that soon enough. The shuttle broke through the atmosphere and entered the cold darkness of space. Behind them, a world began to die. 3 months after Daniel Carter left everything began to fall apart. The scientists had arrived with great confidence. They brought advanced equipment and promised quick results. Queen had welcomed them with a celebration even larger than her coronation anniversary. She had told her people that help had finally come. Real help. Not slow farmers from Earth, but brilliant scientists from a great empire. The treatment failed in the first week. Their chemicals were designed for different soil. Instead of killing the parasite, they made it stronger. The blight spread faster than ever before. Fields that had been dying slowly were now completely dead within days. The purple crops turned black and crumbled into dust. The scientists blamed them for not preparing the soil correctly. They demanded more money and more time. When the Queen refused, they packed their equipment and left without a word of apology. By the end of the first month, 3 more agricultural worlds had fallen to the blight. Food reserves ran low. Prices rose so high that common people could no longer afford to eat. Riots broke out in the outer colonies. Soldiers were sent to restore order. Some of them refused to fire on hungry civilians. Some of them joined the riots instead. Queen sat in her throne room and listened to report after report of disaster. Her advisors argued with each other. Some blamed the humans for leaving. Some, quietly and carefully, blamed her. Lord stood before her one evening with a tablet in his hands. His face was gray with exhaustion and grief. Your Majesty, there is something you need to know about Daniel Carter. The Queen looked up. She had not slept well in weeks. Dark circles hung under her glowing eyes. The human farmer, what about him? He was not just a farmer. Lord activated the tablet and showed her a series of documents. Daniel Carter is the architect of Earth's great recovery. 40 years ago, humans nearly destroyed their own planet. Their soil was dead. Their oceans were poisoned. Billions were dying. He paused. Daniel Carter saved them. He developed the techniques that brought their world back to life. He spent the next 30 years traveling to other planets doing the same thing. He has saved 11 worlds, Your Majesty. 11 entire civilizations owe their survival to him. The Queen stared at the tablet. Her hands were trembling. "He is considered the greatest terraforming expert in known space," Lord continued. "When I sent our request to Earth, I asked for their best. They sent him personally. Do you know why?" The Queen shook her head. "Because 50 years ago, a scientist named saved a human colony ship from destruction. 3,000 humans lived because of his kindness. Daniel Carter was on that ship. He was a child then. He came to help us because he remembered that one of our people helped his people when they needed it most." Tears fell from the Queen's eyes. They were the first tears she had cried since her father died. "What have I done?" "You sent away the one person who could have saved us," Lord said. His voice was not angry, it was just tired. "And you did it because you did not like how he looked." Queen covered her face with her hands. She wanted to scream. She wanted to break something, but there was nothing to break that was not already broken. "Contact Earth," she whispered. "Send a message to their government. Tell them we are sorry. Tell them we need help." Lord nodded slowly. "I already tried, Your Majesty, 3 times. And they responded politely. They said they have no specialists available at this time. They wished us luck in our recovery efforts." The Queen lowered her hands. "They refused." "They did not refuse. They simply said no one was available." Lord looked at her with something that might have been pity. "Daniel Carter has not spoken against us. He has not told anyone what happened. He has not demanded an apology or payment for his humiliation. He simply went home and said nothing." "Then why?" "Because word spreads, Your Majesty, among professionals, among experts. They talk to each other. They share experiences. They know that we treated one of their own with disrespect." He paused. "No human specialist will accept a contract now, not because they were ordered to refuse, but because they do not want to work for people who do not value their work." The Queen stood up from her throne. Her legs felt weak. "Is there nothing we can do?" "We can try other species that have some agricultural knowledge, that might be willing to help for a price." Lord shook his head. "But none of them have the expertise that Daniel Carter has. None of them have spent their lives learning how to bring dead worlds back to life." "How many will die?" the Queen asked. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Millions, perhaps more. It depends on how quickly we can find alternative solutions." Lord bowed his head. "I am sorry, Your Majesty. I tried to warn you. I should have tried harder." The Queen walked to the window of her throne room. Outside, the silver city glowed in the darkness. It still looked beautiful. It still looked proud. But somewhere out there, beyond the lights, her people were hungry. Her people were dying. Because of her. She had judged a man by his clothes. She had dismissed him because he was quiet. She had humiliated him because she was afraid and wanted someone to blame. And he had not argued. He had not defended himself. He had simply looked at her with those tired, calm eyes, said, "I understand," and walked away. That was the worst part. He had not been angry. He had not shouted or made threats. He had just left, as if she was not worth fighting with, as if she had shown him exactly who she was and he had decided that she did not deserve his help. Queen pressed her forehead against the cold window. "I was wrong," she said to no one. "I was so wrong." Behind her, Lord watched his young queen finally understand the cost of pride. He wished he could feel satisfied. He had tried to warn her, but there was no satisfaction in watching someone learn a lesson that would kill millions. There was only grief, and the faint, desperate hope that somehow things could still change. But hope was hard to hold when the fields were dying, and the people were crying, and the one man who could have helped was a million light years away, probably never thinking of them at all. 1 year passed. The empire lost 2 worlds to famine. Queen was no longer the same person she had been. The arrogant young ruler who had dismissed Daniel Carter was gone. In her place stood a woman who had learned what true leadership meant. She had fired her sycophantic advisors, the ones who had encouraged her to insult the human, the ones who had told her she was always right. They were gone now, replaced by people who would tell her the truth even when the truth was painful. She had stopped wearing her expensive gowns. She dressed in simple clothes and went out into the fields herself. She worked beside her people, planting seeds and digging irrigation channels and hauling water. Her hands, which had never known labor, became rough and calloused. Her silver skin grew dull from sun and dust. The nobles whispered that she had lost her mind, but the common people saw her working beside them, and they began to hope again. It was not enough to save the dying worlds, but it was enough to save the ones that remained. On the anniversary of Daniel Carter's departure, Queen made a decision. She called Lord to her chambers and told him what she wanted to do. "You want to record a public message?" Lord asked. "To whom?" "To everyone, to the galaxy, to the humans." She paused. "To Daniel Carter." "What will you say?" "The truth." The message was broadcast across all communication networks. Every species in known space could see it. The young queen, sitting alone in a simple room, speaking directly to the camera. "My name is, and I am the queen of the empire. 1 year ago, I made a terrible mistake. I insulted a man who came to help my people. I dismissed him because he wore simple clothes. I humiliated him in front of my entire court because I was afraid and proud and foolish." She took a deep breath. Her voice did not shake. "His name is Daniel Carter. He is a human. He came to save my people from famine, and I sent him away because I did not think he looked important enough to deserve my respect. I was wrong. I was completely, utterly wrong. Daniel Carter is the greatest terraforming expert in the galaxy. He has saved 11 worlds. He came to help us because one of our people helped his people 50 years ago. He remembered that kindness across half a century and traveled 1,000,000 light years to repay it. And I treated him like a servant. I am not recording this message to ask for his help. I have no right to ask him for anything. I am recording this message because I want him to know that I am sorry, not because I need something from him, but because he deserved better and I failed to give it to him. I have learned many things this year. I have learned that pride kills. I have learned that titles do not make a person worthy. I have learned that the measure of a leader is not how many people bow to her, but how many people she is willing to bow to. Daniel Carter never demanded respect. He never raised his voice. He never argued with me. When I insulted him, he simply said, "I understand," and walked away. At the time, I thought it was weakness. Now I know it was strength. He knew his own worth. He did not need me to tell him what he was worth. I am 27 years old now. My empire has lost 2 worlds and millions of lives. I will carry that guilt until I die. But I will also carry the lesson that Daniel Carter taught me without saying a word. Respect is not something you demand. It is something you earn, or something you give because you choose to. Mr. Carter, wherever you are, I hope you are well. I hope you have found people who deserve your help. And I hope that someday, somehow, I can become someone who deserves it too. The message ended. It spread across the galaxy like fire. Other species watched it with amazement. A queen admitting fault. A ruler apologizing publicly. It was almost unheard of. 3 weeks later, a small human shuttle entered space. Queen was working in the palace gardens when Lord came running to find her. His old legs could barely carry him, but he ran anyway. "Your Majesty," he gasped, "a human ship, it just landed." The Queen's heart stopped. She did not dare to hope. "Who?" "Come see for yourself." She ran through the palace, past surprised servants and confused guards. She ran out onto the landing platform where a small shuttle sat cooling in the morning light. The door opened. A man stepped out. He was older than she remembered. His hair was more gray. His face had new lines, but his eyes were the same, calm, tired, kind. Daniel Carter looked at her. He was carrying the same old bag of equipment he had brought the first time. Queen walked toward him slowly. She wanted to fall to her knees. She wanted to beg for forgiveness, but she did not. She stopped a few feet away and simply looked at him. "Mr. Carter," she said, her voice was steady, "I did not expect you to come." "I saw your message," Daniel said. "I meant every word." "I know." He looked around at the silver city, at the orange sky, at the dying gardens in the distance. "I also saw the reports. You have been working in the fields." "I have." "The nobles think you are crazy." "They are probably right." Daniel smiled. It was a small smile, but it was real. "Your hands are rough now." The queen looked down at her palms. They were calloused and from months of labor. "Is that a bad thing?" "No, it is a good thing. It means you understand something that many rulers never learn." He set down his bag. "I did not come back because you apologized. Apologies are just words. I came back because I watched you change. I watched you become someone who deserves help." Tears filled the queen's eyes. "I do not deserve anything. I let millions die." "Yes, and you will carry that forever, but you did not hide from it. You did not blame others. You changed." Daniel knelt down and touched the dead soil of the garden. "That is rare, that is precious, and that is why I am here." "Can you still save us?" "Some worlds are beyond saving now, but the ones that remain, yes, I can help." He looked up at her. "It will take years, it will be hard, and I will need you to work beside me, not as a queen, as a partner." Queen knelt down in the dirt beside him. Her expensive clothes touched the dead soil. She did not care. "Tell me what to do," she said. Daniel reached into his bag and pulled out a small container of bacteria. The same bacteria he had been growing a year ago. He had never stopped. He had kept the cultures alive on Earth, just in case. "We start here," he said. "In your garden, we make this soil live again. Then we move to the fields, then to the other worlds." He handed her a small tool. "The first thing you need to learn is how to test soil acidity." The queen took the tool. Her hands were shaking. "I do not know anything about soil." "That is okay." Daniel smiled at her, a real smile, warm and tired and genuine. "I am a good teacher, and you have already learned the hardest lesson." "What lesson is that?" "That the greatest strength is not power or wealth or titles. It is the willingness to admit when you were wrong and the courage to change." They worked together in the dead garden until the sun set. A queen and a farmer, kneeling in the dirt, planting the seeds of a new beginning. Humans do not demand respect with force. They simply walk away from those who do not offer it, but they always return to those who learn to earn it. That is why the galaxy fears them, and that is why the galaxy needs them. Because humans believe that everyone deserves a second chance, even young queens who make terrible mistakes. Especially them.